I'm delighted to have a chance recently to chat to Mike Townsend, who is founder and CEO of Earthshine, an international consultancy dedicated to advancing circularity and sustainability in business, the economy, and society. He's also an accomplished author and editor known for books such as The Quiet Revolution and Reframing the Game. As part of the Thought Leadership series in our Action Green magazine, Mike has contributed the first three articles where he tackles the question, is it time to rethink net zero? So please visit our Action Green magazine at techiesgogreen.com for this and other great content. Thanks for joining us again, Mike, to discuss the second part of your three-part blog for Techies Go Green. We're delighted to have you back. This is for everyone who's tuning in. This blog series addresses the question, is it time to rethink net zero? And this second part in particular, which should be available now on the website, is entitled Reimagine Construction for Impact and Commercial Advantage. I know at the end of the last blog or the last video you did for us, you did give us a little insight into why you chose construction, but maybe just for the purpose of the audience here today, you did say that nothing short of a rapid transformation across all sectors of the economy would be enough if we were to achieve a livable world. And then you've dived into construction. Is there a reason why we chose construction in particular for this?
Hello, Francis. Thanks for inviting me to continue the conversation with you. Yeah, a good question to start our session this time. Why did I choose construction? Well, construction is a big part of the climate challenge. The built environment is responsible for around 39% of energy-related emissions globally, and is notoriously a wasteful industry as well. Roughly 1/3 of total waste across the European Union is down to construction and demolition waste. So it's a massive sector with a huge challenge, but also huge potential to make an impact at scale.
Indeed. And you also in your first video and in the first blog, you you highlighted the pitfalls of incrementalism in reaching climate goals. How does this map onto the construction industry, and how are they falling into this trap? And what do you think is the alternative here?
Another good question. I think, to be honest, most companies in most sectors are falling into the trap of incrementalism. Yeah, they're starting out well with good intentions, getting into the foothills, establishing baselines for their emissions for scopes one, two, and three. So the direct, the indirect, and the value chain emissions. Perhaps they're establishing supply science-based targets as well. But having validated targets is one thing. We also need credible transition plans. And this is where we kind of come across, the first challenge. Only around 10%, according to the Transition Pathways Initiative, only about 10% of transition plans are credible strategically. They're good at building in operational thinking, but not thinking through the strategic implications. And this means that, as we discussed last time, organizations are then assuming that we can start with business as usual with a bit of growth on top, and then going for the low-hanging fruit on emissions reduction strategies. But then they start to reach the point of diminishing returns, where there's nowhere else to go, basically, to find significant reductions in emissions. So they get to a crunch point, really, and it's about halfway along the journey. It might kind of resemble a radioactive decay curve, but it just goes on forever and ever for the rest of it within the current framing of the business and its value chain. So we need to kind of rethink and reimagine what the possibilities are for every organization, for every value chain, whether in construction or other sectors, and say, what would it take to deliver net zero? What would the transformational design for this business and value chain look like, rather than making small changes in business as usual?
In this radical rethink you're talking about for the construction industry, you say it starts with design. Can you give the audience a taster of what this entails?
Yeah, I think firstly, it's about reframing the design challenge rather than taking the present day design and looking for ways to take out bits of carbon here and there and everywhere, but turn that design challenge round, reframe the design question and ask, what would it take to design and deliver a net zero building or a net zero infrastructure or project, whatever it is. So then we need to take a future-oriented approach, bring forward the innovation challenge, and get the whole team collaborating, whole team through the value chain together to innovate and co-create solutions that will deliver us, radically different design, radically different value chain sourcing materials, and so on and so forth.
And in this reimagining of the value chain and supply markets, how do you propose that all the stakeholders get on the same page here?
Well, this needs radical collaboration right through the value chain, Francis. So we need from the client end, the designers, whether they're architects, engineers, specialist designers, M&E systems, and so on, the main contractors, subcontractors, specialists, materials suppliers, the providers and manufacturers of kit like M&E systems, and so on. There needs to be alignment. Everyone needs to be at the table. There needs to be a creative environment where the companies and organizations come together and take that new design challenge of how we get to a radically different approach. And then each actor in that process needs to contribute where they can see the opportunities. And that has to be a joined up dialogue because we need everyone to make changes. So in coming forward with innovations from the supply chain, for example, we then might have to change or challenge standards and specifications. So that will need input and agreement from the client end, from designers, and so on and so forth. So we need to have that two-way dialogue right the way through the value chain to come up with a new way of working, a new design, a new supply chain and value chain, and particularly to harness the opportunity of the circular economy. So where we build in product take back, refurbishment, remanufacturing, and try and see if we can build new types of circular supply markets. So it's a big change and it needs all the stakeholders to line up.
Beyond the moral imperative of doing the right thing, how do you get all of these stakeholders, I suppose, to, they're thinking about the bottom line, as all industries do. What's in it for them, I suppose, beyond that moral imperative to do the right thing?
Yeah, it's another good question. And it's all down to the money, right? In turning things around, in looking to change anything, can we make it work financially, commercially? And this is where we need to have a new mindset. Okay, we need to not look at things from a traditional mindset of how do we make money in a linear economy. We need to kind of find the new sweet spot of how we make money and change business models to make money in the circular economy, in the net zero world. So we need to shift our roles and our mindset to become resource custodians, where we then actually make money by looking after resources, systems, materials. So we need to create incentives. And I think there's very interesting insight from the Netherlands. The municipality of Venlo they were building a new town hall. And what they did was they recognized that they needed to create this kind of role of stewardship with suppliers. So they created financial incentives. So the contracts, they had to agree to take back their various products or whatever at the end of the first useful life. And there would be pre-agreed prices to preserve the value that they would get back. So they're incentivized financially, basically to look after and take back resources. And it's that level of commercial innovation thinking that we need in the construction industry to say, okay, we know how we made money in the past, and it's pretty wasteful. How are we going to make money in the future by being resource custodians? And when you think about it and start looking at value chains in a different way, we can see there are more touch points through the life cycle of resources and materials where we can harvest value. So it's about making the most of that value and that resource.
And this particular second part of your blog series concentrates obviously on the construction industry. What or how could the lessons learned here be applied to different sectors?
I think the key shifts that we've been talking about are applicable in most, if not all sectors, with customization, I suppose. But I think each sector themselves there's already stuff going on where there's powerful learning to share between all of us. And I think one of the key learnings, if we turn that one around, one of the key learnings that I've become aware of in recent months is the work done by Renault Group in the automotive sector. And they've already designed and delivered a net zero vehicle, the Renault Emblème. And I think, some key learning points from that. I mean, what they found was, and it's interesting parallels with our own work, they found they needed a completely new way of working with the designers, with the supply chain. So strong parallel there. They found that they had to tear up the rule book of how you design and build vehicles, start again and take that kind of net zero challenge. What would it take? So a total rethink in design, value chain collaboration being essential, uh, establishing a new way of working, a new manual, if you like, for how this is to be done. Um, and mindset for them is also an important shift. Now, in developing that new way of working, Renault have done this as a demonstration vehicle to start with, but they're taking that learning through to actually change how the production process will work, so that they'll be on to producing net zero vehicles in the mass market 2035 and onwards, which I think will be a tremendous achievement. So I think there's parallels between each sector, customization, and very strong learning in all cases.
In the third and upcoming part of your blog series, can you give the audience a little taster for what you plan on covering in that?
Sure, Francis. Yeah, and really, it's about the change part of the equation, and delivering this level of change is really hard. There's no doubt about it. And whether it's in construction or other sectors, we've seen before that there can be various change initiatives, modernization, and so on, and it might get so far, but not really deliver the full level of change that's needed. We have oftentimes barriers with conservative mindsets and so on, big challenges, big risks. So part three will be all about how do we make transformation happen. It's a major challenge, big risks, but also a big prize for the net zero and circular economy winners in being able to stand out in crowded marketplace, deliver the impact that we all need to see, and to harness the commercial advantage. So we'll be getting into the nitty gritty of how we make the transformation happen.
Thank you for your time, and everyone. Parts one and two of those blogs are now available on the Action Green magazine section of the Techies Go Green website. I encourage you to go have a read and have a look at the videos that go with those as well. Very insightful, Mike, and thanks as always for your time.
Thank you, Francis, and I look forward to seeing you next time.